By the time it ended, a mining company hoping to dig for gold and copper got just what it wanted. CEO of Pebble Limited Partnership asked newly appointed EPA administrators to withdraw environmental restrictions on Alaska's Bristol Bay.
Throughout sort of my young adult life, I bounced around a lot. But as a kid, driving to northern New Mexico, southern Colorado with my dad to go fishing, looking for trout with fly rods, you start to pay attention to bugs, you start to pay attention to weather, to seasons. And if you fish the same rivers over and over, you notice how they change over time. You notice how maybe they're degrading. You start to connect that experience with an environmental ethic. And that, in theory, then could and should lead to some sort of engaged environmental conservation action, which is what got me involved in places like Bristol Bay. But in Bristol Bay, we don't have to fix anything. From a fishing perspective, it's the source of dreams. It is one of the last great functioning salmon ecosystems.
This morning, Harry Smith's taking us to a pristine but problematic spot in Alaska where a high-stakes battle is underway.
What they want to do right there, that's what's got people talking.
Into this wilderness may come a giant open-pit mine, gold, copper, and molybdenum. 20 miles away from the mine site is an unsullied watershed that provides the spawning grounds for one of the last great salmon runs in the world.
We don't have many of these places left where you still have 57 million sockeye return. It is a near perfectly functioning system. We can catch half the fish and it still functions. We can feed Americans, we can feed Alaskans, we can feed part of the world. Why are we going to risk that? One of the first things I did, I got hired to basically go hang out at the Alaska State Fair in Palmer for 12 days and hang out at a booth every day and talk to people about Pebble and get them to sign petitions. I thought I knew what I was doing, what I was talking about, and it was hard. I got bludgeoned. Quickly, the insider-outsider card was played on me. You don't know, you haven't been here long enough to understand the issues. How can you talk about protecting this stuff? And that takes more precedence than, say, science. Or even sometimes the voices of the very people who were trying to help, tribes in Bristol Bay. You've got, generations of cultural knowledge and experience and relationship with those lands. Why don't we listen to them? For those of us trying to do conservation work, it feels sort of like this long grind and it's hard to see progression.
And unfortunately, Alaska loves to build big things. Coal mines, gold and copper mines, large hydro development projects.
I've been involved in protecting Bristol Bay for, at least 11 years. There are moments when you think, get me through these 5 miles. And I think the past couple of months have been really in that mindset.
The EPA was removing a special protection for Bristol Bay and, in essence, clearing the way for what could be one of the largest open-pit mines in the world.
I turned to running out of some quest for sanity. Sometimes conservation work, it feels like it's an ultramarathon. If I can just get to this point, I know we're good for the rest of the run, but God, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to that point. So you start playing these mind games with yourself. July 24th, Pebble's final EIS came out. Before that, I was really full of despair. I was really despondent, but we got through that media cycle, and actually we sort of kind of won that media cycle. And then all of a sudden the terrain changed, and now we're running downhill, we're running fast, Pebble's on their heels.
The Pebble tapes were secretly recorded, and they reveal top executives at a Canadian mining company describing their cozy influence over American politicians.
You can start to see the finish line again. Then you get to start talking about things that are proactive. to start talking about protecting Bristol Bay long-term as opposed to just defeating Pebble Mine, about creating some space in which these things are no longer a threat. That's a lot more fun. When I talk about Bristol Bay, we do this on behalf of the tribe. These are their homes. When I think about that in the context of these are Dena'ina lands, not mine. We're privileged to run in those mountains. But I think we have to be in this work in conservation, running. They should force you to ask those deeper questions. What are the histories of the places that we work? What are the histories of the people who were displaced from those lands? And I think the more we can do that, these journeys, they will be more rewarding. You know, I think one of my hopes is not what I tell others, but how I raise my kids to be in these communities, to be in these lands.
Yeah, so 2 sockeye salmon, each of them has the footprint of one of my children in them.
You know, they're born in these waters.
Maybe they'll leave these waters like salmon do, maybe they'll come back, maybe they'll be here forever, I'm not,
You know, who knows? But it's, you know, this Alaska landscape, these rivers are certainly now a pretty defining feature of what our family story is. My name is Sam Snyder, and I was born in Brownwood, Texas, and I live in Anchorage, Alaska.